Alright, welcome to this video, Introduction to Algebra. Okay, now our learning goal is going to be for this one. Students will be able to represent numbers using these new things called variables. Okay, and by the end of this, you'll be able to interpret an algebraic expression and write an expression for some given situation. Okay, alright, now the question that's probably on all of your lips is algebra. Why even bother? Now, algebra is an extremely powerful area of mathematics, and in any of the sciences and engineering, it gets used all of the time to calculate and predict extremely complicated things. However, algebra is used all the time without you really realizing. Whenever you're trying to figure something out where you don't know a piece of information, you're usually using algebra, whether explicitly with actual numbers or maybe using some logic. And, for example, you could do a little graph up and you might be able to find a relationship between two different things. So maybe it's the number of, as time goes on, maybe the number of hours, or maybe the number of cookies you ate. Okay, and as time continues, the number of cookies eaten gets bigger and bigger. Okay, and this would be some kind of function of time up here. And being able to look at things like create this function, or predict, talk about what's happening at this point here, or maybe think about what's going to be going on out here in the future. Well, all that sort of stuff would be using algebra, whether logically or explicitly. Okay, some of the key ideas that we need to think about first up are things like pronumerals and we're going to be defining a whole bunch of new stuff because algebra's got a particular language and we need to make sure we're on the same page with the words we're going to be using. Okay, so pronumeral and variable. So these are letters that replace numbers. Okay, for example, x could equal 3, okay? And so the x is standing in place of wherever the 3, of what the 3 could be there. Or sometimes we don't know what the number is, it's just that it can change, okay? We also need to be aware that perhaps the unknown variable we're going to use, b, it can also be stand in the place of the number 36. Okay, so just because there's one letter doesn't mean you can only use one digit. Okay, so it's an important thing to be careful of. Okay, right, there's some new ways of writing some operations and stuff as well. So in the past, if you'd written, so we might write 4 times x, okay? Now you see the way I've written the x there. It's deliberate, sort of to be able to distinguish it from a multiplication symbol, okay? So you want to either write your x's kind of like that, curve, or curvy line thing like that. That doesn't really matter. A weird one, curvy or something. However you're going to do it, just make sure it doesn't look anything like a multiplication symbol. All right. Now, we get rid of our multiplication symbols in algebra, okay? And so 4 times x would just be 4x, okay? So the fact that there's nothing in there, between there, tells us that it's multiplication. Okay, we also changed the way we do our division. So you might have heard me say before, we don't see any division signs after a while. That's because if we had x divided by 3, we would rewrite that now as x over 3. So everything gets written as a fraction instead, okay? So we do away with our division signs and our multiplication signs, and the equations become a little bit more simple because of that. Okay, so here's an important one for you. This idea of something called a term, okay? So a term is numbers and letters that have been, or that are multiplied and or divided. Okay, and you'll kind of see what that looks like. It's easier to see what it means rather than explain it. So, for example, a term might be 4x, as we said before, because that's a 4 multiplied with an x. That's a term sitting there all by itself. All right, we can also have terms like we had before. That x over 3 is also a term. Okay, 72xy squared over 5. That's a term as well. So these three things are terms. Right? This, however, is not. If I was to have 14 plus 5x, right? That whole thing is not a term, right? But the individual pieces, the 14 and the 5x, are. Okay? So that's important. Like, terms are kind of like the little building blocks of our expressions and equations. You're actually about to see what they are anyway. Okay, an algebraic expression is a set of numbers, or a set of terms. I might not say terms, might say numbers and variables with operators. Okay, now we don't need equals signs. Okay, so an algebraic expression might be 4x plus 7y take 2. That would be an algebraic expression because we've got numbers, letters, they're added and subtracted and multiplied together, and it's not an equal symbol. Okay, expression is just a thing that's just sitting there. Okay, so with this early stage of algebra, you're not going to work things out, okay? You're going to be more so learning the tools that you need for later on to really do some hardcore problem solving, okay? Lastly, coefficient. This word means the it's basically the number in front of the letter. All right, so if we had 3x, the coefficient is 3. Okay, because it's the number, it's in front of the letter. If we had just y sitting by itself, it has like an invisible 1 here that we don't see, because 1 times y is still y, so it's okay to have that, and its coefficient would be 1. Okay, right. Let's have a look at some worked examples. Okay, right. So we've got this expression here. So it's an expression. Oh, actually, I've got an equation here. It's a bit naughty because I've got an equal sign here, but that's all right. We've got an expression on this side, an expression on that side. We want to identify the coefficient of PQ. So we look through our equation here, and here we go. Here's where PQ is. Now, there's a P by itself here and a Q by itself, but we want the coefficient of P times Q, which is 8. Okay, if we have a look here, an 8 there, but it's got this minus sign here as well. Okay, so that means our coefficient of PQ is the number that's in front of it, which is this, which is -8. Okay, it's a bit important, a bit of a tricky one there first up to show you. Okay, we're going to list all the variables in this list here. So we've got the variables of P, we've got Q, we've got PQ, well, they're already listed, and we've got R, okay, because that's all the letters we've got there. We're going to list all the terms as well, which is all the little bits and pieces that we've got there. So that would be 3P, 4Q, -8PQ, 7, because it's a term by itself, and 2R. Okay. Just a couple of other things for us to look at is being able to write expressions for a particular situation, because that's going to help you with your problem solving skills later on. And we're probably going to see a lot more ability to solve some of our problem solving team challenges now, because you'll start to get a whole new tool set of stuff that you can attack those problems with. Okay, so write an expression for these situations, the product of E, F, and 7. So remember, product means multiply. So that means E times F times 7. Okay, but remember we don't have any multiplication signs anymore. So we're just going to have E, F, 7. But in algebra, we like to write it with the number in front. So that's actually going to be 7EF. Okay? C is divided by 4, then 1 is subtracted. Okay, so we've got the number C, it's being divided by 4. Actually, remember, C divided by 4, then 1 is subtracted. Okay, but remember, we don't have a division sign anymore. Okay, so we're going to have C over 4 minus 1. Okay, now this minus 1 is out all by itself because this idea here, then 1 gets subtracted. Okay, here we have the sum of x and 5 is multiplied by 3. So if we have sum of x plus 5 is multiplied by 3. Now, both the x and the 5, after they're added together, are getting multiplied by 3. Now we have to think of a way to say that. And in maths, that's with some brackets here. We don't need our multiply by 3. And we usually chuck that number out the front. So we're going to have 3, x plus 5. Okay? Alright, sorry this video's run a little bit long there. Just wanted to make sure I showed you some examples there and got a chance to go through some of those definitions. Okay? So, welcome to the world of algebra. It's exciting and I'm sure you're going to love it. Thanks for watching.